I'm joined now by Israel's former Prime Minister, Ehud Barak. Mr. Barak, thank you very much indeed for joining me. I greatly appreciate it. I want to start by playing you an extract from an interview I did with Prime Minister Netanyahu back in March, in the middle of all the big social unrest in Israel over his attempts to usurp the power of the Supreme Court. Listen to this.
We don't believe in collective punishment. I go after the terrorists, I go after those who support the terrorists, but I don't believe in collective punishment.
It seems to me part of Netanyahu's problem has been that for political expediency, he's had to pack his cabinet full of very hard right people whose incendiary rhetoric has done nothing but fuel a lot of fury amongst the Palestinian people. Would you agree with that?
You know, the nomination of these two racist, messianic, we call it in Yiddish, Michiganers, is a grave mistake on Netanyahu. They are a pariah within the Israeli society, but it has nothing to do with the crisis we are now facing. The barbarian massacre that happened in October 7th started to be prepared before Netanyahu government, more than a year ago, before Netanyahu government was ever established. And it has nothing to do whatsoever. They are huge damage to Israel in more than one way, but they are not the direct cause of this event and these attacks.
When you heard about the scale of what happened on October the 7th, how did that affect you personally? You've been a Prime Minister of Israel, you've been a general in the Defence Force. What was the personal impact on you?
Look, I witnessed our people. It was the most severe blow that Israel suffered since its establishment. We had never such an event where within 24 hours, it's much more than 1,400, probably we'll end up with 1,800, and several hundreds were caught as hostages, and they were slaughtered, literally. It's not just a terror, it's a crime against humanity. No one can remember such pictures since probably Eastern Europe during World War II under the Nazi rule. And that, of course, it shocked the public, but we are a defiant species. We know how to unite when we face an external threat. We are united. We mobilize over 300,000 reservists to make sure there is enough force to avoid any kind of further surprise and to be able to have a major offensive in the Gaza Strip. We got support from the whole world. Prime Minister Sunak is now in Israel, but Biden was there yesterday. Aircraft carrier is closing even some British vessels, and we enjoy a lot of support. And the third element, which is very important, in a way, it's not just a failure of the intelligence, a failure of the operational side, and in spite of heroic response of the soldiers on the ground, it's still a major failure of our defense system, but it's also a major failure of the political level, and basically they lost the trust of the people, and both the government and in a way the military. And an important step was the creation some 4 days ago of a war cabinet made of Netanyahu and other 4 people. 2 of them were added from the opposition leaders, Gantz and Eisenkot. They both are career generals before they turned into politicians. Both were commanders of the armed forces of Israel, and both are very responsible, cool-headed, balanced people. So in a way, their joining the war cabinet make more citizens, including myself, more quiet about the decisions that might come out and translated by the armed forces into action.
If this attack had happened on your watch as Prime Minister, would you have resigned?
It depends to what extent I would feel the situation. I don't want to answer it right now because there is the question, of course, on the air in regard to Netanyahu. I think that now we have to focus first and foremost on response. We have to do something. No modern state can afford having it. You mentioned earlier 9/11.
Yeah.
You think in the terms of the population, it's like Americans having 9/11 with 50,000 people killed, not 3,500. So it's a major blow. We have now to focus. We have to eradicate any military capability of the Hamas.
But here
this
is the
is
problem,
a demanding enough job.
Mr. Barak, let me just jump in there because the Geneva Convention outlaws collective punishment. Prime Minister Netanyahu, when I interviewed him back in March, said he did not believe in collective punishment and he wouldn't exercise collective punishment in the way he dealt with Palestinians. But many would argue, including my previous guest Hassan Piker, that the fact that 3,500 Palestinians have already been killed in the last 10 days since October the 7th does constitute a form of collective punishment. How do you go after Hamas, given that they are living amongst the civilian population in Gaza, without exercising a collective punishment? Are we not seeing that now?
Israel is committed to the international law. No Israeli commander ever get an order to a pilot to launch a bomb on a hospital. That's a crazy idea, and we can later on talk about it. So we are basically committed to it. It's a major constraint on our operation. The right way is to warn everyone. We cannot afford not acting against the Hamas. So we announced on the first day, every one of you Gazans who know that the place where he lives or the place where he works, there is now or there was in the past, let's say 2 years, any Hamas activity, a launching pad for a rocket, a lab, a munition or weapons kind of a depot, a kind of operational office or training site, whatever. You should leave the place because we are going to hit it. And we said it once and again every day. Some 4 days ago, we announced all Gazans are asked to move to the southern part of the Gaza Strip in order to allow us to hit the rest. 500,000 moved, another 500,000 did not move. The Hamas deliberately used them as a human shield, deliberately tried to discourage them from leaving.
Let me ask you this. What is a proportionate response? 3,500 Palestinians have already died. If there is a ground invasion with support from the air, perhaps the sea as well, by Israel, that number is going to massively increase. You're going to see tens, if not hundreds of thousands of Palestinians killed here. At what point does it become disproportionate, or indeed, as critics are already saying, a war crime?
I strongly believe that if people will be focused enough to understand that we are going to come with ground forces as well, because you cannot eliminate these barbarian Daesh-like or Al-Qaeda-like groups. They are slaughtering civilians in our border. I'm confident that if the UK, the Great Britain, would have 10,000 British citizens slaughtered literally by a Daesh-like group over your border that jumped in, you would take whatever steps. I don't want to go into history and remind you of Dresden and other operations. I want to remind you that the UK, as well as the United States, sent its forces over half of the globe in order to destroy Daesh. These are enemies of mankind, and we have to get rid of them.
But
now,
what happens?
We take all.
Listen, I agree with you, but what happens, Mr. Barak? What happens?
No, you cannot.
Sorry,
look, Piers, you cannot ask me why the citizens of Gaza are not leaving the places where we announced them days ahead of time. We are going to go there. It will be tough. We will use fire because we had to get rid of the physical.
Well, it may be, Mr. Barak. Let me put it to you. It may be because this is their home. These are their houses. This is where all their possessions are. It may be that they think to themselves, why should I leave my home? I'm not responsible for what Hamas did. Why am I going to face being killed because of it?
If you or me would have faced the choice whether to be killed as a result of staying there or leaving it and stay alive, I would at least, I know that I would have lived. And they have the right to live, they have the opportunity to live.
Where are they going to go, Mr. Barak? I mean, let me ask you, where are all these Palestinian people going to end up? Where will they live? Where will their homes be?
Don't ask me how it will end up. Once they leave, they move to the southern part of the Gaza Strip. There is enough place for them. We are not going to operate for 10 years. It might take several weeks or probably 2 months if there are more people inside it. We will fight Hamas. We will eradicate their infrastructure and their capability of repeat this crime. Israel cannot afford having Hamas attacking us in this way again, and I am confident that any elected government of any country on earth would have done the same. And it's not inevitable that they will kill en masse. They can leave. They can leave now when we are speaking. They can leave tomorrow. They can leave next day. It's not coming within a few hours. But you cannot blame us for the fact that Hamas coerced people to stay as their human shield. You will end up with impunity to kind of Daesh-like terrorists because they always can in handgun hand some people, including the hostages, I might say, as a kind of human shield for them. And that will paralyze humanity from being able to struggle, which is its worst enemies. And we are not going to stop it. I'm confident that we are doing our best. Every target is checked more than once by different teams to make sure that it's legitimate.
Okay, Mr. Barak, I've got to leave it there.
And
Listen,
only then execute.
All I would say is the world is watching, and Israel has got reasons. I believe in Israel's right to defense, but there is going to be a tipping point if Israel is not careful. If too many Palestinian civilians are slaughtered in revenge for what happened October the 7th, the world's mood will change, and that will be a dangerous moment for Israel and for the world. But listen, we'll have to see what happens, and I realise you're
Piers,
not the person in charge.
I have one remark to make. We heard the same from the Americans. Even without this advice, which I fully respect, we are doing it anyhow. We fully understand. We have several constraints on the operation. One is the hostages. The second is the risk that it will spread to the north and become a regional war. The third one is the question to whom we will pass the torch. Once we cleaned the area from Hamas, we are not going to stay there for. We need some player to take it. Let's think of Arab multinational force that take responsibility for 3 or 6 months and bring the original recognized owner of the place, which is the Palestinian Authority, or any other variation on this. And the last sincere constraint is the international law. We fully understand that this universal support of Israel will erode as the number of collateral damage, which happen to be, it's a kind of vague definition. It's basically people who are innocent and are killed. We don't like to kill people who are innocent.
I understand
but
that,
we understand
Mr. Barak,
that the legitimacy erodes.
I have to leave it there. I understand that, but this collective punishment issue, if it looks more and more like that is what is happening, that will be a breach of the Geneva Convention. So we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out.